Okay, we're alive. Okay, so we're back. Hope you all enjoyed lunch. Okay, so I thought we'd start with, I made a few summary statements of what I thought I heard this morning. And I don't want to reopen these issues, but I think I have some clarity here. So incoming students must pass the basic skills by 60 in order to continue in the certification program. Right? Okay. They can re-enter at any point once they clear admissions, formal admissions, whether that be a GPA issue or a testing issue. They can re-enter at any point. And that could extend their 4 years, whatever it takes, but they can come back in. Okay, we're all good on that? Okay. Current students below 48 are under the new law, period. Okay, so our current, say, rising sophomores are under the new law. Students who are post 48 can be admitted, can continue their program, and they basically have time to pass the basic skills test. But we should be reasonable and intelligent on how we manage those students so that they don't reach the end of the cliff and can't go across. Right? Okay, good time? Mm-hmm. Okay, great, okay. Professional core courses beyond the list, and I want to take a moment to look at that list before we're done, are open to any student admitted to your university. But we are making very clear to those students, by virtue of taking this given course, you are not in a teacher certification program. And that would be spelled out in writing to that student.
And I would say that they shouldn't be taking the whole program.
Right.
It should be clear that they're not in the program.
Exactly. And any student who is not in the program, is going to be aware of the fact that it doesn't meet the certification. Post-bac students, I mean, we haven't exhausted that topic just yet, but so a student who began as an education major and maybe took a set of education courses, but for some reason stopped and come back as a post-bac student. If they pass basic skills test, then what they took previously can be carried forward.
Yes.
Okay.
It just occurred to me as you were talking that one of the things, we get all the praxis tests automatically for Pennsylvania. So one of the things we'll look at when we see all this is we'll look to see if people have been taking a lot of the basic skills tests and then became post-bac.
Sure.
Just wanted to point that out to you that I hadn't thought of that earlier.
But
But that's one of the things we can look at. It's like if they're in a post-bac program and we see they, never took the basic skills test, that's different than seeing that they tried and then all of a sudden became a post-bac student.
That's a good point.
What does that mean then for us? Just that, I guess I still feel like there's not clarity for us in terms of what students need to take the basic skills, what students that are coming back after, already have
when
an
they come-
undergrad degree.
What we're going to watch for, because I'm going to say this differently, because there's no rules about what post-bac is.
Right.
We're going to be watching for students who are undergraduate education in the preparation programs, who don't finish maybe student teaching and a couple other courses, come back as a post-bac, don't take the basic skills test, and we'll probably see that they were taking the basic skills test and didn't pass. So in other words, we're going to be watching for patterns. What I said was we're going to watch for patterns where students who are undergraduates didn't pass the basic skills test, come back as post-bac and don't take the basic skills test. In other words, are using it as a way to get around the test.
Continue ed major type person.
Right.
But a person who was not coming from an education major as an undergraduate has some other degree.
And then you know the way that we work is we then get in touch with you, or in major review, this will come up. And we will sit with you and go over this data and say, how do you explain this? Okay,
But
so it's
they can-
not like we're gonna set a threshold standard and say, as long as you're under this percentage, you're okay. What we're gonna be doing is watching the data, and when it's either pull you out of, into major review, out of cycle, or just come and talk to you if that's the only issue, but we're gonna follow up with you. So it's not gonna be you pass, fail. It's gonna be that it's gonna become an issue that we have to discuss with you.
Okay. If you have a student who wants to be an ed major, wants to get into the certification program, by the time, at the end of the sophomore year, they've taken the test 4 or 5 times, they still can't pass it, so they stop, change their major, and they are now a liberal studies major.
I mean, it's a
And then they come down and they want to
We
do
are
it.
going to watch for patterns. One student isn't a pattern.
But there are a
Okay,
number of
so
them.
there's no scenario around one student.
But following that case, I don't see severe thunderstorm watch. In the current location.
Let's get out of
7
this
p.m.
here.
7 p.m.
Joseph,
Adam Joseph is a friend of mine.
He's one of the most popular ones in Philadelphia.
So- I'm an education major. I take the test several times. I don't pass. I reach 60. I'm told you can't continue with professional ed courses. You can become a major. If your school has another education track, you can go there, or you can go some other place, okay? And what,
then you want to come, you want to
You
as
wanna
a
come back.
post-bac.
you want to come back as a post-bac
Right.
student?
Right.
If you want to use the coursework that you took as an undergraduate, you have to pass basic skills.
No.
If it's foundational courses.
Yeah.
No, just some of these courses on this list, not other courses.
I mean, the purpose of this, like, we're not negating this, right? I mean, this
No.
is still in existence.
Right.
And what this says is that if you take courses within here and then you move out into another major and you come back as a post-bac, that they count and you can continue on, right?
If
We're not
I'm
negating-
just gonna repeat what I said earlier.
And
All
the
of that
right
is
pattern,
fine.
right.
As long as it's not a pattern
Right.
where we can see that you're purposely
Right.
taking students and moving them
This
to
still, I mean,
post-bac.
this whole thing is still effective.
Oh,
We
yeah,
haven't
sure.
negated
Oh,
it
yeah.
yet. And I think that's what Mary's saying.
But it's not that we're purposely moving them, it's just that they can't pass the test, so they have no choice but to move into another
Then
major.
they didn't pass the test, that means that they don't meet the qualification to be a teacher,
Right,
you know?
but again, it goes back to that whole idea of if they then come back at the graduate level, why do some need to take it, some don't need to take it?
Post-bac is not really graduate though, right?
It's not the fact that what we're watching for is the fact that there is a pattern occurring where people who can't make the grade are counseled into post-bac programs to avoid the test. If they are a natural post-bac candidate, because you're not gonna have large numbers of them. You know, if they make a decision, number of people who automatically make a decision and to change, all I can tell you is you're gonna hear from us if we see a pattern. And we're gonna sit and talk about it. There's no way to describe a given scenario. You're going to make good judgments. You're ethical people. If you are good ethical people, you're not gonna have to worry about this because there's not gonna be a pattern. That's all what can I say?
Okay.
Yeah, the rules are clear.
So
Post-bac is not supposed to be a way to get around the test,
It's not, but for some students, it's their only option.
to get around the test.
But they are doing the same thing that somebody else is doing who doesn't have to take the test.
Somebody who changed their mind, who was out in the work world and came to be a teacher. Yeah, that's a different person than the person that
Is it fair to
failed
have two
to pass the
different
test
standards?
and then takes the post-bac. It is different.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I totally understand where you're coming from about you have integrity and you make quality ethical decisions. So our teacher certification program is a part of a master's degree. And I had a student from another state who, for some unknown reason, other than she told me that in her senior year, she was not allowed to student teach, and her major was changed from music ed to vocal performance. And now she was applying to my graduate program for music ed. In the end, I didn't accept her, so I will put that caveat out there. But if you have a candidate who has a 3.0 in their undergrad work and maybe tracked into one of these non-certification ed majors, coming into a master's program, though, they don't have to take the basic skills test. They just apply as a candidate to that.
I'll just tell you that it's been my experience when a person was in the education track and gets put into liberal studies, it's usually because they didn't pass the tests.
Right, I just want
Pennsylvania,
to.
it's usually because they didn't pass the test.
Okay, but I just want to clarify, though, that if I have a student who graduates even from another institution, say music performance or something else, in a related music field, who then want to come and do our MAT in music education, that they don't have to take the basic skills to enter into that graduate level.
Again, I'm not, there is no way for me to give you, the education is like this. There's no way for me to say that this is the scenario that's okay and this is the scenario that's not okay, which is why I don't want to do it. I want to talk about a given student and what we're going to be watching are how you are making decisions about who gets into your post-bac programs. And if a large number of them happen to be people who failed the basic skills test several times and completed their program undergraduate and all of a sudden come back as a post-bac, and we'll know that from the transcripts.
That's the flag.
That's the flag. And it's not going to be one person. It's not going to be the first person that comes in like that. We go, oh, here we go. It's going to be a pattern. It's going to be a recurring pattern. And that's why it's kind of hard to define it. And the first step will be to come and meet with you and have a really tough conversation about why you have this pattern. You may have, I don't know what, but you might be able to say, oh, this is why it happened. And, I can't imagine how, but we may be just saying, hey, if you want to continue to educate teachers, you got to give that up, But I don't know if that's actually going to happen. So we're not talking about a given student with a given fact situation. We're talking about a pattern, which is much more difficult to define. And I don't want to set a percentage on it because I'll set it too low or too high or whatever. So just be cautious that what you're doing is not bringing in students who can't pass the test. That's really all you have to worry about.
Okay, so let's bracket that. Unless there's a burning question on that one yet.
It's not a question so much as an observation.
Okay.
And we all just agree, though, that not being able to pass one module of the PAPAs does not negate you from being an amazing elementary school teacher.
See, that's a different argument, and you have to have that with the people who pass the rules. My job is not to pass the rules. My job is to enforce the rules.
Sure.
That test has been in effect for decades. Okay, it's over 25 years that they've been doing the teacher testing. And I've read for 25 years we've been saying that there have been people saying that. And I'm not going to agree or disagree with you because I represent the people who have to enforce the rules. So if somebody wants to start that conversation among policymakers, it's a very legitimate conversation because they have to change the law and the regulations or else we're going to be doing the test. And when I first came, I was talking about one story earlier, really sad stories about people who are struggling with the test for one reason or another. And can you just give me something else or, is there some other way? And the lawyers have told me right from the very beginning, I finished 8 years in this position. You cannot give waivers for the test. First of all, you don't have the legal ability to do it. But secondly, once you start doing that, how do you shut the door? Once you open the door, how do you shut it? Because some of the stories are really heartbreaking, And, but that's a different, the idea of do you have to have these test scores in order to teach? You have to because those are the rules.
It goes back to maybe what you were saying about maybe doing a course evaluation.
I doubt if it's going to be a list of courses, but if you can come up with some alternative that you want to present to the secretary, then that's certainly an option to just make sure you think it through really well.
Well, it's very, that's an appropriate comment. Again, it's a different topic, but I remember this year, this time last year, we were debating the reliability and objectivity of the
Yeah.
PAPA's test.
Right.
Now, that argument's totally shifted now to when we give it, not is it even
Well,
worth giving.
No, what shifted it was 4 tests,
What? Yeah.
accepting 4 different tests. I mean, we
That
really
helped,
did
that
listen to the
That helped.
arguments about the PAPA test, and the bottom line was the easiest way for us to go was to say, okay, we'll give you other tests, and pick one, you know.
The question came up, because we were talking about those tests, that, I think it was that table over there. Do you know why they said you can't mix and match?
Because they're not comparable in terms of scoring. If you, well, for example, if anybody knows the ACT versus the SAT, you know, you need a 23 in the SAT and a 1550 in the SAT. There's no way to compare them. That's why.
If you meet the standard for SAT,
The tests are-
the standard for ACT.
The tests have to be calibrated to one another. We just went through that with GED, which is not your worry, but we had the same problem with GED when they came out with the new GED test. We actually, because of all the fuss, we had to actually find a way to calibrate, you know, the old to the new, and it took a lot of work. So you pick a test and you just stay with that test. Now, can that change? Sure, I don't make those decisions either, but that's the rules right now. Otherwise, we have to get somebody to figure out what's the score on the ACT that would be comparable to the score on the SAT, to the PAPA, to the,
But why can't it just be, like, so the score on the,
because it isn't, yeah. I don't know.
All right, moving on then.
Well, so do we determine whether or not they have to take the basic skills assessment if they are graduate level students?
like, in other words, when we get these
Yeah.
students that come in, especially if they're not from our university as
I'm
undergrads.
just not, we're gonna watch for patterns. I'm just gonna watch for patterns.
So the best pattern to have is make everybody pass the basic.
Well, if they're an undergrad who's immediately going into post-bac, I certainly think that would be a good idea.
I think that,
Are you using post-bac synonymously with graduate?
No,
That's what
post-bac is anything after the bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
That actually was a learning thing
Yeah.
for me when I came
Yeah,
to Pennsylvania, that, I don't know if it's true all over, but in Pennsylvania, in our world, it's post-bac is anything, any credit beyond
any
bachelor's
credit,
degree.
yeah, yes, right.
okay, turning the page then, because we probably got to shoot for, it's 1:20, shoot for around 2, is it down?
Yeah.
Okay, because people have other things to do in traffic and whatnot. Okay, let's talk quickly about transfers. Okay, so are there anything new or that we should talk about in terms of transfer students? So a transfer student can come in and then,
If a transfer student, we did have this question, I think it's in the FAQs. If a transfer student comes in and you're giving them credit for 78 credits for, again, picking a number out of the where it's above 60, then they should take the basic skills test at that point. They can still get the 78 credits, but,
so
no,
basically,
unless you're not giving them full, you know, whatever. I'm saying you're giving them credit for 78 credits. They may have, as I know from my daughter doing her 5th year of school after her 3rd college change, you know, you may not be giving full credit for
Right.
everything they have. But if you're putting them at the point where you've accepted enough education credits that it puts them in the formal program, then they should pass that basic skills test up front.
So
Why
we
couldn't
should
we
be ready.
require that the community colleges have them?
They
take
do,
those?
actually, the ones that are under the TAOC agreement, the 60 credits, they make their students take the basic skills test.
And pass them
At the end of the
before?
basic skills test, yeah, they do.
I talked to a couple of community college people a week or so ago, and they weren't aware that it was
Yes.
required that they pass that before they get
Right.
accepted into the 4-year
Correct.
college. They thought they had a semester or so.
Well, obviously, they don't, because they've got 60 credits.
So they're not so
They're
aware
not
of
aware
this.
of that.
Well, then that may be something that if you want to send to me, we'll send a message out to. Now, I'm talking about the ones who are in the TAOC agreement, like the pre-K to 4, and they've been working on the 4 to 8. I was told that they do make them take the basic skills test.
Not many of ours do.
So I'll check that out. Let me know.
okay, you're right, right.
Thank you.
Okay. So in that document that I gave out there, that handout, which was you have it there, Terry?
Yes.
Let me see. there was a question at one of the tables to just very quickly review the bullets starting on page 2. And if anyone had any questions, someone had a
The
question
list of
about
courses.
the list of courses. We just work backwards. Go to the next page. Subject and pedagogy, was there a question about that? Or did we need clarification on what that meant? Is that the basic methods courses?
Yeah, I agree with that question, just
Okay.
as the
Yeah.
difference, I didn't know, just the difference between something called subject and pedagogy compared to, like, subject and pedagogy early literacy compared to introduction to
We were-
reading, writing, and literacy.
We got a list of courses from different places, and so they probably, to me, they sound like they cross over. They probably cross over because different people call basically the same course different things. We included them because we were trying to indicate that we weren't saying it had to be called this. It's that this is what's acceptable at the early stages, and anything that's beyond that is in the formal program. So generally, subject to me is content, but the other place that we got this list of courses was from the TAOC agreement, because the PASHE schools and the community colleges had agreed on this was what was acceptable in the 60 credits coming over from the community college. And we thought that that was appropriate then for us to say to everybody, these are acceptable courses, not just for PASHE and the community colleges. So that's the source of this. We asked a few people for their advisement sheets, and we looked at what they were currently offering in the first 2 years, first 60 credits, and then we looked at the TAOC agreement, and that's where this list came from. The problem in Pennsylvania is that we don't dictate what courses are, and so everybody gets to design their own courses. So we're just trying to give you a general idea of what's acceptable.
It's a pretty generous list, I think, so that shouldn't present a problem thing about it.
So would it, like, if our methods course in, say, science, it's science PK 4, would that be okay under that subject and pedagogy, early science?
I would look at the list of the titles of courses and say, does it more fit into any of those kinds of categories? If it's your methods course that leads to student teaching, I'd say that's in the formal program. If it's a kind of a generalized, this is what it's like in pre-K to 4, then I'd say it could be an introductory course. You know what the difference is between an introductory and a formal course.
Except that one is unclear where it says subject and pedagogy, and then it has those, because a methods course is pedagogy.
I think you look at your own advisement sheet and you look at what you expect people to take in the first 60 credits and what they take after that.
So it's more where.
And
it falls in your
that's pretty
program.
much where you've drawn the line.
Or you could even say like 100 level, 200 level.
Thank you. That's a
300
good way to look at it. Yes.
Okay, good, I think that works. That's pretty much very flexible.
Thank you for that. I
Very
hadn't thought of
flexible.
that.
Okay, can we talk about, some of us offer intern certificates? So, does this law affect the intern certificate at all?
No, because the intern certificate is primarily all pedagogy. You pass your content test up front. I can't remember what the rule is around the basic skills test.
Well, they're.
I think they're all post-bac.
They're all
They're all
post-bac. They're all
post-bac.
graduate students.
Right. So no, it doesn't affect them.
So the interns don't have to necessarily pass basic
Right.
skills.
Well, I don't think they're required to because they're post-bac.
They're post-bacs, right? And they're true, just starting out, so that's fine. Okay, so that argument then about the interns basically follows with all graduate masters.
Well, I think the other side of it is they pass their content test or they can't get into the
Correct.
internship.
Correct.
So that puts them in a different category than the other post-bacs, than anybody else.
I agree. Okay, that's all I had from going around to the tables. Was there anything else? Yes.
Totally unrelated question.
Good.
Something from a few days ago. If you, let's say you already had a pre-K to 4 certification. You want to go back and get a program to get certified in special ed now as well.
Okay.
Do you have to do student teaching in special ed?
No, I know
That-
this
that
came
case.
out as, so what happens is, I know that Christina just put something out on this. And again, this is one of those things that's difficult to quantify. But basically, special ed, as you know, you have to take the program, right? But you don't have to do 12 weeks of student teaching because you're already a practicing teacher, at least you're certified. But you do have to do some kind of a field experience so that you can judge whether or not they learned their special ed material. And you decide pretty much what that looks like. It could be in their own school where they're teaching, it could be, you know, whatever.
But it was led to believe, it looked like it said you had to do student teaching.
I know, and
That was, I think.
I think
But
she
you
was
have to have-
clarifying something that made it sound like that,
You
because there
answered.
was something that
That's
sounded.
But you have to have 2 formal PD 430s.
do. Mm-hmm,
That's what we were told.
yes.
Really?
Yes.
We've had this
That's been like that for a
discussion
long time.
where you give a modified student teaching to
Right.
that person, and it has to be 2
Two.
430
Is there a rule
observations.
about how close together the 430s are?
No.
This is the first time I've even heard about the.
She was basically saying at least 4 weeks,
Yeah.
That's what we
do that.
modified student teaching of at least around 4 weeks.
Call
Where
it
maybe after
practicum.
Is that
two,
reasonable?
one.
Yeah, you can call it an
4-week
internship, you can
Yeah.
call it a practicum. You don't call it student teaching, or you don't. You can, I guess, but you probably shouldn't.
Actually, what I'm finding is that we modified one of our courses, Inclusive Classroom Practices, to include this 4 weeks of student teaching. And I want to see the word student teaching on the transcript,
I don't,
partly
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
PA,
Yeah.
but primarily for other states
Yeah, right.
who are looking for
Yeah.
that they do any student teaching.
but Joe, isn't there something that says that you're only allowed to, you can't have them more than do 12 credits of student teaching? Like, isn't there some ruling, I remember, that that's one of the reasons why after they've completed their student teaching, you can't make them do student teaching again? That's why we use the word practicum, because they already did student teaching. So we don't want to say they're quote unquote student teaching.
I'm
again,
aware of
because
that
it's
rule.
beyond that.
It probably comes from the law saying
different
that you do
course.
12
Yeah.
weeks of student teaching. But I'm not familiar with how that decision, I'm not familiar with how that
I just
decision
remember
was
us looking
made.
at that. I
because
can't
that
tell you
predates
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it's never been that you had to do another 12 weeks. It's always been that you had to do a.
Well, you know how you do these
some type of-
out-of-state forms? It says, your student teaching is identified on the transcript. Please tell us how it was made.
Right, I just say how it was, and I just write in, it was practical
That's fine.
for the special ed.
The other thing I would say is it doesn't say it has to be continuous either, because if you have working people, they may be able to do 2 weeks one time and 2 weeks another, or whatever. So it's not the same rules as student teaching, it's just that you need to be able to say you have seen them in that classroom setting and they were successful teaching that new certificate.
Is it correct that this second student teaching experience would only apply to candidates who are pursuing a certification they can't add, but doing the process too?
Well, some people will, even though you can add on most subjects by testing, a lot of people do take coursework probably because they're afraid they won't pass the test.
Right,
But,
but if a student plans.
but if
to
they
and
do
does
the add-on
indeed-
by testing, they don't have that
They don't
requirement.
have to,
That's
that doesn't
true.
apply, yeah.
You can't add on special.
You may not add on special ed, cooperative ed, reading specialist, or health and phys ed.
Is reading special shut down completely now?
Yeah,
No.
God help us, yes. I think we should change them to an ed specialist personally. That would solve that problem.
Okay,
Some questions from.
Questions from online?
Slippery Rock, yeah.
Good,
There
go.
were some questions that were sent in. This is about tracking, I guess, teachers. Some of our required reports want to know how many students are employed by public schools in Pennsylvania. They also ask about the retention rates of teachers. They want to know if the teachers who are employed in a Pennsylvania public school and how many are still teaching after 1, 2, and 3 years. Is there a way to pull this information from TIMS?
We're working on that. You know, one of the problems is that PIMS has employment data, TIMS has certification data, and up until TIMS, it's not possible to do it. So it would be not possible to go back beyond TIMS. But we do have somebody working on, can we produce the data that would show how many people who are certified in TIMS are working in Pennsylvania public schools. But we don't have that right now.
The question is, checking to see if a certification has been approved can only be done by checking each individual student. I can export information from TIMS as to what certification areas a student has applied for, but am not able to see if their certification has been approved. Can this function be made available via TIMS?
I think it requires a change in TIMS, so I would like to have that as a formal request, and we'll put that in on the list. First of all, I apologize, but I'm not really sure what you can download and what you cannot. So that's the first thing I have to do is go back and ask that, and then see if it's possible to do
Yeah, it's
that.
gotten a little better, but there's a lot more that we can be doing with that.
Right, because we have to go into the other system. We can determine it by going into that other system, putting their SSID number
Right,
in.
yeah.
We can determine it that
Yes.
way.
But we
But
should
it'd be nice
really,
if it was all in one.
we should really rally around and provide input to PDE about how we can make that TIMS database much more
And give some
searchable,
priorities, yeah, because
sortable, and all that stuff, yeah.
we only have a part-time programmer working on that now. So it's really not, we're not getting a lot of changes. It has to be in priority order. And we do take those suggestions from the field, both from the LEAs and from higher ed, as to what needs to be done.
Okay, any last questions? Kevin?
Yeah, this is from Lebanon Valley College. And I think it's been answered earlier, but the question is, how does student teaching fit in with PDE's definition of a methods course? Since the transition from Praxis 1 to PAPA, we have separated certification from program completion. So we have had students unable to pass their basic skill test that have been allowed to student teach. We also have
That's
had
okay.
rising seniors intending to student teach this coming fall semester that have an average of one module left to pass, but have taken all their methods courses with the exception of the senior capstone course to be taken in their 8th semester and after student teaching. How does this new law impact them?
But it doesn't, it doesn't impact the students that are currently in the program. So you're describing students that are not impacted by the new law.
Good.
That's the short answer.
Yes?
Okay, I just want to be clear, this specific scenario I don't think came up, but I do think I understand the question, the answer. If you have a 4-year student who comes in, they pass the basic skills requirements, they take education courses, including a couple of professional courses, and then they have a change of heart, graduate with a different major. Can they come back in the post-bac and have all of those courses that they did take count?
Yeah, because, and you said they passed the basic skills test.
So that-
So again, remember that the whole issue of the basic skills test is more of we're watching the programs. But yeah, your scenario, sure.
Okay.
Of course, they're gonna have to pass their content test too. but-
Frank?
A variation on that theme, and I think there is a question underneath it, so it's not just a specific example. Suppose you're looking at somebody's transcript that's come from somewhere else, who's taken a substantial, let's say 9 education courses, some of which are professional. And they want to have some of those waived as they move into a graduate course. And
We expect that you do that.
yes, we do.
Yeah,
But
we-
suppose, so here's the question. So suppose I say now, okay, but you're gonna have to pass your basic skills test before you come in to protect yourself from those evil folks down at PDE. Okay, so they do that and they pass, and now they're walking in the door. And it'd actually be simpler for us. We've been talking about simplicity being the virtue here. Simpler for us to know that that was taken care of. So now I'm actually reviewing the transcript, and certainly all those foundations courses, which were taken prior to passing comprehensive, that's fine. At that point, if they've passed those tests before they enter into our program, do we still waive those professional courses, or do we make them take those over?
No, you decide, remember that what I said was if they're transferring, are these people who've already graduated or not? Let's say they're undergraduates and they come to you and they have 78 credits worth that you could accept. They should take the basic skills test and then they can have all 78 credits if you're satisfied that those were legitimate credits. That's your decision as to whether their courses match your expectations.
Even if those professional courses were taken prior to passing the comprehensive?
Yes, even though. Yes.
Good. Okay, anything else?
Joe,
Yes?
I think they take a liberty, the thing that you everybody, to thank you and St. Joe's for hosting this. Terry for coming to join.
Thank you, Terry.
I appreciate that you still talk to me nice after.
You guys got 4 dogs, 4 puppies. We
Yeah, I go home, my dogs love me.
understand. Right. Now, Terry, you've always been a straight shooter with us, and we appreciate that. We know we can count on you for, we know you're just a enforcer. Okay? And you fit that role well. Okay, folks, so this is great. Thanks for coming. Online folks, thanks for participating. And we'll probably see you in the fall in Harrisburg in October. We're putting that out soon. Take care, everybody. Drive safely.
Good job, Joseph.
Thanks,
Do
Dan.
it. Do it. Don't ever regret it.